sexuality.com podcast.
Hey everyone, my name's Jazz Terry and my pronouns are she, they. Come on, sis.
Hey, my name is Joe Foster and my pronouns are they, them.
Hi girlies. My name is Aaron Shales and my pronouns are he, him.
So we're going to come on to this in a bit. So the thing that these three people all have in common is that they have just finished a lovely run of Anne and Juliet at the Shaftesbury Theatre.
I'll go first.
Go on then, Jazz.
Yeah.
I think, like a lot of performers, I realised I wanted to do it from a very early age. And I just trained. I went to like a lot of amateur, like we all love it, don't we? Like, you know, your little...
Your Amdrams.
Your Amdrams.
Yeah.
I did that. And then I wanted to take it more seriously. So then I decided to go to like a musical theatre troupe called West End Kids.
Okay.
And I did that. And then when I was at the age to audition, I auditioned for drama school and then, went out and then did my first job, ended in a pandemic, which was lovely.
Always a joy, yeah.
And then joined Juliet. So that's sort of really me. Like, it's very sort of the same.
you did Kinky Boots, didn't you? Before
Yes,
Juliet?
I did Kinky. It was an absolute dream. Kinky Boots to me was the first time I actually saw myself. I remember going to the theatre and literally being with my mum, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is everything!" Like I was obsessed. I was obsessed. I think I saw that show literally about 27 times, and I was in Lincolnshire, so I would literally finish sixth form. Like me and my friend Sydney, we would literally get like, you know, Today Ticks. It wasn't such a big thing that it was now, I suppose, and so we literally.
Yeah, you can barely get the bloody tickets now.
Yeah, we literally got like, really like, we won the lottery and then we used to literally bounce from school, get changed, get on the train, bounce, see the show, then bounce back home, then do school again, and that's it. Like, I don't get how we did it. I don't even know how I had the money, if I'm honest, but we did that, and Kinky Boots was such a full circle moment because I never thought that it left town while I was training. So then when the opportunity came, I just went, I was in training, and I just went, I'm going for it. And I just literally emailed and just went for it. And then I booked it. And it was just the most, it really felt weird. I remember literally telling you and being like.
Yeah, you did. I remember.
I literally was like, what?
We were both obsessed with it because we would go with each other when we were at Bird to go and watch Kinky. And you booked it. What a madness.
Yeah. And it was the most fun I've ever had on stage. Like, I'd do that show in a heartbeat. It was great.
So fun.
It's such an amazing show, and it's such an amazing show for like a black actor to be playing like a femme character, isn't it?
Absolutely, and also the message is just be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Like, it is that journey, and I think that was what was so beautiful about it. It was a journey of like acceptance, and I think it was so special for me to watch that, but then also to be a part of that and to inspire and influence audiences, to me was like I say, like the full circle moment of it, where I went, wow, like I'm really out here doing a thing for myself. Like I felt like I came out there and I was growing in my queerness compared to, I just felt like it really, even though being in it, you think, oh, it's just a job, where me, it was so much more like going out there and giving that energy. It just started my whole journey, really, because then I ended up being like, wow, I just want to be like this all the time. And then it started the whole circle. So, Kinky Boots was a blessing.
It's amazing. I mean, the thing I always find weird about Kinky Boots is that Harvey Fierstein once said that he had created, I don't know how this works, but had created the role of Lola as a straight man, which I always find really bizarre.
Really?
Yeah. And then Billy Porter did an interview a few weeks later and went, well, I never played it as a straight man.
Oh my God. God, that would have been a totally different story.
It is,
yeah.
and it's, I mean, to me, the problem, I can see what Harvey Fierstein is saying, which is that there aren't many stories about straight men who dress differently or who are gender non-conforming.
Yeah.
But also,
You don't
there
wanna-
aren't any stories about black queer people.
Yeah,
Full stop.
absolutely.
Really. So to me, it's really important, and I love the fact that every time it's cast, it tends to be played that way as a queer character anyway. And I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
It's a true story as well, so they have to. I feel like that is why it's set out the way it is. I feel like
Yeah.
if it ever was to come back, I feel like it would be a very interesting conversation as to what that whole storyline is.
I'm so glad you found like that role so early on as well. That's
I was literally
fantastic.
baby Lola.
Yeah.
I swear I was literally like 19. Like it was
Yeah.
the most amazing experience. But being an angel, like you could, very similar to Juliet, you could literally do no wrong in terms of
Yeah.
you be yourself, you bring yourself to that character. And so that's why it was just so much fun to be like in the middle of the ocean, like literally just having literally living my best life at such an interesting age.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you, Jazz.
No
Who would like to introduce themselves next?
I don't mind.
Go on then, Aaron.
I don't mind either.
So hi, I'm Aaron Shales. My pronouns are he, him. I always loved the idea of performing from such a little age, but I just never knew how to sort of get into it. So I always used to watch my sister go to dance classes.
Oh, yeah.
My older sister, and she'd come home and she'd show us like the routines that she'd learned, and I'd stand behind her and copy her. And that's all I used to do. Like, I always wanted to go to classes, and it was never that my parents like wouldn't let me. It was just they were more like, well, if you want to go, then like find somewhere to go. Like, find what you want to do. And I think I was always at a younger age scared to like delve into it. But then when it was a part of like school, so like school shows and stuff, because other, boys, and like quite stereotypical, I mean, I don't mean stereotype, but like, quite masculine boys at school would do the school shows as well. I was like, oh, well, this should be cool. Like, this is cool. So that's where I really like found my love for it. Like, I always used to copy my sister, like I said, at home, but I started in school shows, and then moving into high school, I did more and more school shows, and my high school, public school, but we did a lot of high budget school shows.
Did you?
I did Starlight Express.
No
Oh
way.
my god!
What is
What?
that
And you all learn rollerblading?
So you had to audition to get into the show, and then you had to do a second audition to get
And you
on
got caught.
skates. And I didn't get on skates, so I was in the choir.
Oh no.
I'm howling at that.
I was
What's
fuming.
Starlight Express at a school.
Year
Oh,
9. I was
God.
year 9. They built a ramp. And yeah, I was in the choir. We were the handymen of the trains. Trigger him. And we had to wear dungarees and a coloured top and the Primark white pumps. For like every
my
school
gosh.
show, Primark
PE
white pumps. Yeah, we did loads. We did. Well, they did Phantom of the Opera, and I didn't get in that year.
Mood.
You'd be a great Christine.
Lucy St. Lou, I'm coming for your gig. And yeah, so I did that all throughout my time at school as well, and I just loved it. And then I actually started taking dance classes when I was 16. I started one dance school at 16, and that was in the freestyle world, lol. But I didn't do the fast and slow elements of it. I just did
Medium. No.
No. Like, so there was like 4 in my dance school anyway. Like in the competitions that we went to, there was like fast, slow, street, and rock and roll.
Gotcha.
And I did all the classes, but I only competed in street and rock and roll, which was really fun. I came in national second.
Wow.
Yeah, I did it at Blackpool, competed. And then at 17, I joined a more like traditional dance school as well, like ballet tap and modern. Had no idea what I was doing, didn't know what a tondu was, but yeah, we moved. I was quite academic at school as well, so when it got to like, that time when you come into the end of your GCSEs, and like my school had a sixth form, and it was like, what are you gonna do? Like careers teachers or whatever that didn't really know me would be like, yeah, you're really academic, so don't bother performing. It's a waste of time. It's not practical. Like, do your maths, because I was really good at maths. But then I got to sixth form, and I was like, yeah, I still love like the academic side of things. Like I did A-level maths and stuff, but I was like, oh no, I still want to perform. So then, yeah, just started looking into like where I could train, and I auditioned, and then I trained up north because I got no funding to train in London. Poor people problems. And yeah, so then I trained at a college called SLP in Leeds.
Okay.
And then once I finished training, I signed with an agent, and I just really wanted to work, started auditioning. And then I think it was like a few months after graduating, I got the audition for Juliet. And then 6 months after graduating, I got the job. And yeah, and then I delved straight in, and now we're in unemployment.
Correction, fun employment.
Unemployment. But I would like a job, so if anyone's out there, please give me one.
It was really interesting, Aaron, looking through the roles that you played in training, because you did some really...
Did you look?
I did look.
Oh my God. In my second year, the third years, they needed more boys, air quotes, for their production of Legally Blonde, which... I'm not trying to big Joe up here, but is my favourite musical of all time. So when I knew they were doing it and they needed more, I got put in, and me and the director clicked, and he was an external director, and he directed the national tour of it that went out a few years ago with Lucy Jones. And I just loved it. I got to be like really open and queer, and he was like the first person at college like that really sort of asked me who I was. Like, the other teachers knew that I was, you know, like just really open and different, but never really spoke to me about it. Yeah. But he really wanted to know and understand and really work with that, which I loved. So like, one minute I was Sundeep Padomodom. And then I know, Asian factor. But then in the other scenes, he was like, "Oh, I need a Kiki in like the hair salon," and he was like, "Oh, who do I get?" And he could have easily gone for a third year, you know, it's their musical, but he was like, "Where's Aaron? I need Aaron." Used me, and I was literally in like every scene because of that, because he was just like, "I want you to be you." He looked through my Instagram and saw my outfits, and he was like, "I need you to wear this in this scene as Kiki, like bring your heels in, like all of this." And it was so fun. I actually loved it. Yeah. And then just after that, it was time for my year's musical, and we were doing Thoroughly Modern Millie, and I got Trevor Grade in the third. I wanted Jimmy, but whatever.
Don't we all?
Yeah, but I got Trevor Grade in the third, and it was fun, but we never actually got to perform it because of the pandemic. We were literally like, it was a week before we were meant to perform it that the pandemic shut us. So then, third year we did Bad Girls. Like, watching it, I was like, right, okay. But then it was actually a really fun experience, because Harry Blumenau, he used to come in and do our shows as well, and he directed that one. He cast me as the lead, which was Jim Fenner, and I was quite surprised, but I worked hard, but it was very hard to play. But do you know what? That was such an experience in itself to do that role, because I just always think, you know, we are very different people, me, Joe and Jazz, and we all identify in different ways, and like my pronouns are still like he, him at the moment, but I'm very like wishy-washy on pronouns. But I just feel like sometimes the queer people are the ones that get made the beeline, and like the supporting, the comical, whatever, like always never the one. Yeah. And I felt like, even though it wasn't a queer role, to be made the one as a queer person, and very much not looking as someone who would play Jim, you know, stereotypically. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time at college and playing those different types of roles and getting to explore, and yeah, and then getting to watch, you know, someone like May on stage and then playing it a few months later, like absolutely insane. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
And hello again, Joe, because Joe has already done an episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
And we asked them back. Yes.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit.
Me.
No, it's a pleasure. I think I'm trying to remember what we covered last time. I don't think we talked very much about how you got into musical. We talked about, I remember us talking about Oliver and Annie.
Oh my gosh, how we were like, why is Annie the most queer icon ever? That ginger curly pair.
Would you dye your hair ginger? Would you dye your hair ginger?
I would for Annie. I was saying, and we talked about Nancy.
We
and
did.
Nancy. Oh God, I'd love that. Imagine getting to sing Nancy every night. Putting it out there. No, how did I get into musical theatre? So to be honest, I just went to an Amdram. I think I was probably a bit of an attention seeker when I was younger anyway. I didn't really have like the most friends. I wasn't very social.
Younger, still are.
So my mum and dad, I'm talking child, but like my mum and dad were like, obviously, oh my God, we need to get him into Amdram and stuff. I was trying everything. I think I was doing like karate, swimming, horse riding. I was doing the whole shebang.
I did
like,
horse riding.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
Isn't that hot?
Yes. Of course you were. No, but yeah, it was, and so everything. And then obviously we tried drama, and that obviously just stuck. And that was, when you're younger and you're queer and you're going through stuff, or you're in the closet and you're in a space like that where you're brought out and people, I guess that's why you find there's a lot of queer people in entertainment and in stuff that's creative, because essentially you bring your own experiences or you bring yourself to it, don't you? So yeah, I did that. That was cutesy. Did a couple of Amdrams here and there, and then I think everyone just started going to drama school. Everyone went to college, so I went to Pendleton in Manchester. Up, and everyone went there, and then we went to Pendleton. You work hard. Everyone then goes to drama school, so I went to drama school. I did Bird first year. That's how I met Jazz.
Yeah. Oh, we had a ball, didn't we?
Yeah, we did have a ball. So me and Jazz have been friends for quite a lot of years, but I've only just recently met Aaron on Juliet, and it's bloody pleasure. Isn't it, Aaron?
Better be.
And then and then obviously drama school, pandemic, half of it online, which was and then but rent and then now I'm here doing Juliet. It's so funny. Last time I was here, literally, I don't even think I was supposed to say anything, but we said it, and then you put the podcast out after it got announced.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah. And then I just did me, and it was just the most amazing, like, full circle moment.
Aww.
I feel like also it was a full circle moment because us two were so close as friends.
Yeah.
And then when obviously I heard you were in for it, I was like, if this happens, oh my gosh, because like the journey from probably 5 years ago to now, we would have never. We were like popping our pussies in freedom, like as you do with drama school, like oh my gosh, imagine, like
you
it'd be
look
so
up at
cute.
those people and you go, oh wow, like they're doing what we want to do.
And we want to do that, and then to go out there and be like, not only that we are
very much found ourselves as people together as well, which again was just an amazing thing. And you started coming out with more of like who you were during Juliet as well. And like I felt like I kind of was at a good place when I started Juliet, and then if anything it solidified it more. I guess when you do it, for me, I just felt like I was just talking my own experience every day.
You're telling that story of yourself on that stage every night.
So it's not really a challenge as such, because I mean it's a challenge to dig into it every night. You have some nights where you go, oh, here we go again, let's do it. But like in terms of like speaking your truth, it's the most like powerful thing you can do. Do you know what I mean?
If you're interested in LGBTQ+ representation in musical theatre, check out our website www.queermusicals.com for lots more information about musicals with LGBTQ+ characters.
I was just going to add on to that because we're obviously talking about being queer in theatre. I just feel like what Joe was saying is, I feel like for me, it's really being queer in theatre. It's like two sides of a coin, I think. One side of it is beautiful. You have euphoric moments. We are in an industry that is inclusive, has different like sizes, people from different backgrounds. You are around actors and creatives who are all mostly fighting for the same sort of safe space, which is great. But then on the other side, it can be quite draining and tough. And I think a lot of queer people come from some sort of trauma. And I feel like this industry, just the nature of it, can be quite triggering. Whether that's just going into an audition and being your most authentic self, whether that's going out in front of hundreds of people every night and speaking your truth, but then going out into the outside world and having that completely thrown back in your face.
It's mad, the parallels, definitely. I mean, we all spoke about that a lot. But it's true. It's like, even, you know, you go out in the outside world and you get looks, you might get cold here and there, but yet you're so celebrated on stage. Like, it's such a wild...
It is weird.
I mean, we're so lucky and privileged that we're in this industry in terms of how, you know, I mean, we're not there yet at all. Like, gosh, not at all. But in terms of, there is not other many industries that really encompass you and bring it, and that is only recently that has been allowed, where
Absolutely.
people can bring their experience, bring their, you know, their queer identities on stage. But yeah, absolutely. But even like what Jazz was saying about, like, you know, you find these gigs. Luckily, I've only really done queer stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm so grateful, because I feel like you do, when you in theatre, you create communities in whatever show. You could do any show and you're a family, you're a community. Whereas there's something about when you're in a queer in a queer company, or you're with queer people, just the bond that you have, because you have to get to know each other. You're there 8 times, 9 times a week, and you're doing a lot. So it is mad, actually. I'm so lucky. I feel like if I hadn't have had these experiences, I wouldn't be who I am and where I am if I hadn't met the people that are, you know, and they allow you just talk. You talk. You're not. You talk out your thoughts and your feelings, and you realize, oh my God, everyone is going through that. When you come through, especially coming from, like, you know, like bloody working class background, you get your man's man and your mum and stuff like that. It's sometimes it's just not a thing. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say for me that's probably my experience up to now, and with Juliet. But absolutely, it's really jarring, isn't it? Especially with all the current stuff going on with, like, queer people, queerphobia, trans rights and stuff. It's weird. But then on the other hand, that's what makes it even more special. You meet those trans and non-binary people at stage door, queer people in general, and people cry, like, people sob. It means so much to people, especially, like, they see 2 authentic queer people on stage in a loving relationship, or like finding their feet, and it is just like, that is amazing. Like, people just, you know what I mean? It just resonates with a lot of people, and that's why it's important, and that's why there needs to be more.
I feel like, adding on to that with Juliet, I think that is what they did so well. I think, and that's why it's sad it's going. I feel like the show celebrates, like, I feel like it's such evidence of, like, you know what, having more people at a table does work.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely.
It does. Like, it moves forward. It also accesses so many more people. I feel like people who came to Juliet, the special thing was is you could resonate with so many different characters in that show. And even the players, even us, like, me and Aaron had the pleasure of, like, going on as ensemble, being really mainly ourselves. Like, you talk with costume, you sort of, like, figure out what you want. They base it really on you. Like, literally, Paloma said to me, I've looked at your Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. I don't know any other show that does that, and it gives the freedom of expression, and that's the one thing that I feel like with Juliet gone, I hope that it's inspired new writing and inspired creatives and people to really look inward and be like, you know what, if we're going to reflect something, let's reflect it backstage as well. Let's have the community. If we're going to do a show, let's have the community backstage be what it is on stage, and let's go and create. I feel like that's
what theatre is, though. Theatre, you're supposed to go to watch theatre and feel represented or be able to connect to it. So when you open it up to a wider bracket, you're opening up your audience.
That was literally my experience with Juliet. Like, 6 months before I joined the cast, I'd watched it for the first time, and something about me, like, that's one character out of 8 leads. Do you know what I mean? Like Jazz said, there is a character for so many different storylines and so many different people to look up to, and something about me, I was like this, like, it was a weird feeling, but like a good weird, and I was like, wow, like that is on stage right now. That's on a West End stage, and, you know, it's a shame it's closed, and it's great that it's going out on tour and it's going around the world, but like Jazz said, like, that story was one that deserved to stay intact. Like, it really did. And, like, for me, like, even, you know, we were all training only a matter of years ago, and like I said, like the first person to talk to me about like understanding who I was as a queer person was an external, and that's no shame on my teachers, but I just feel like even 5 years ago when we were training, musical theatre was so different. Like Jamie was probably the most like groundbreaking thing at that time. I remember seeing Jamie for the first time, and that was like, oh my god, there's a
that's
gay
so
kid on
funny.
stage, like in drag, like
Yeah.
what is going on? This
And
is
the lead
crazy.
character as
Yeah,
well.
and the lead
Yeah.
of it, like the centre is around Jamie, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then that's why, like we said about Hope, from Jamie to then get something like Juliet, and then like things like I haven't even seen it yet, but like Jazz has talked to me so much about Strange Loop, the fact that Strange
Yes.
Loop is coming.
Yes,
Like,
Absolutely.
It does feel like we are, obviously, like Joe said, there's so many more places to go, but I do feel like even with the things that are coming at our community, we are just pushing against it, and hopefully, and I pray and I think that there will be newer things coming for so many more people to delve into, for so many more opportunities, and so many people to find like light within, either as an audience member or as, you know, part of the team. Because, you know, I was only an audience member 6 months before I
Yes.
joined Juliet, and I was like, oh my god, like this is absolutely insane.
Like honest parts, Juliet. There is not that queer part is not a caricature. Like there's a lot of things where
Like
it
the
is
serious.
Yeah.
Actually, the
Most serious
the most
storyline out of
serious
them all.
storyline,
Yeah.
really.
It's sort of like there's characters where like it really gets taken to a place, and there is space for that. Do you get what I mean? And there's
Yeah,
joy in that, and it's great. But like I feel like with Juliet, May isn't like, you are not going, oh my gosh, like here we go, it's a typical set. It's literally just real life.
Yeah.
But Trans Awareness Week,
Oh,
Trans Awareness
we
Week,
even raised like $2,000 for that, and I just went, it's so interesting how like audiences who probably weren't aware of that, of trans and non-binary people, how they fell in love with a character, saw no danger. They saw this character,
With feelings.
the feelings,
Yeah.
they saw them hurt the same way they do. They saw X, Y, and Z and resonated with them. And then at the end, they celebrate them. Like when they're the first people to bow and everyone is up on their feet rooting for them.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, isn't it interesting how we've got you and you've watched it and you've fallen in love and realised that like authenticity is key. And like we had school performances,
Oh my
and I
gosh,
remember
yeah.
even saying to Joe, like when Joe was going out there, I was like, you'll be
my gosh.
like,
Went mental.
you've
So
got
scary.
this, like, because
Yeah.
that's so scary, because like even we're grown adults, it's
And
kind
you're
of
still
like,
it takes you back. You're like,
yeah,
I'm at school, I'm at
Yeah.
school. Like, even just going out, I remember, gosh, what, I don't even know. I remember being really upset.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was before or after.
It was
Well, it
before.
was just before I'm Not a Girl, and I was like, right during Blow, you know, you have that split seconds in there where you and then you got to go out and give it, like, it's so like crazy. But I remember in that split second, I was like, oh my god, I really don't want to do this, because you know it's amazing how schools in, because they're so rowdy and they really like get on board with it. But I mean, just that, I think it is a scary thought, because again, they don't lie. They're not gonna think anything.
and they rooted for you. They
that's the
yeah,
thing,
rooted
like,
for
they do
you.
at the end. Yeah.
For us, you know, only being younger people, like school, what I was there 5 years ago, was so different to
Yeah.
the stories
It's
that I hear
mad,
about
isn't
school
it?
now. But this is the thing, like when Jazz was saying about families that would come and not know anything, like I used to, like, for example, I remember one time on a double show day, after the matinee, I needed to go down to the box office and get some tickets for the evening. And as I went down, like it was quite quick after the show ended, there was like still some audience members coming out, and one family came up to me, and I was just in the ensemble that day, and they were chatting to me about the show, how much they loved it, and it was just a normal typical family, few kids, parents, and you could tell they didn't really know much about it, because I mean, you know, people learn, but they misgendered the character of May. But they were, as they were misgendering the character of May, they were like, that was all our favourite character, like, and just literally non-stop rooting for me, just like to my face, and like that is amazing. Like you said, being from like a working class northern upbringing, like being at school, like was a completely different time, and to know that, and they say though, don't they, about kids, like kids are more no filter than anyone else. Like they are learning as they're like they're developing, they're growing, and they're learning. And like I see TikToks of like, if you just tell a kid something when they're
They're
so little,
younger.
they're younger, so they just go, like it's that easy for a kid to just understand that people are people because they have no other reason to believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know.
Even just like
Yeah, but I feel like adults, because of backgrounds or like upbringings or what they think is right or what they've learned and stuff, it's those to me that like when those adults come and see the show and they're like, oh my god, this is absolutely fantastic, like these stories, the representation, and you're like, wow,
it
that
does
is
hit home.
yeah.
It really does. Even with like, I've got a 9-year-old sister. She's 10 in like 2
Yeah.
weeks. But ever since she was a kid, like I think someone. Obviously, she's grown up around me,
Yes.
and I've always drilled into her because I'm like, for me, I had a lot of maybe like demons growing up, and you know, you speak about it in therapy, you get it all out. But in terms of like, I want her to be so like open-minded with what the world is.
Yeah.
She knows me, obviously, and my friends, and you know, she's around loads of different people. And the way at like school, someone called someone gay at school, and she went, actually, there's nothing wrong with being gay. And like, you know, she's giving it back to her. And she was like, she's like, still calls me her brother, and she's like, my brother's gay, and actually, there's nothing wrong with it, and you can be anything you want to be.
Aww.
And I just thought, you know, in terms of like, that's a 9-year-old. Like to me, I'm just like, wow, that, you know, and it just goes to show when you are around people who are, it just completely takes any like queries you might have of, you know, other people. It's like you've got to, but yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, she is just so open now, and she knows that she can be anything she wants to be, and she can do what she will. Like, I think it's just, it's really hard. It's really sad that it's so hard for people to say that and take that on or tell their kids that, you know, and it's like the most, to me, that is just like the most, you know, simple thing in life. Literally be what you want, who you want, and just lead with love, you know what I mean?
What makes me laugh is that like once something is celebrated, like majorly, like quite a lot of people are celebrating it, suddenly a lot of people then all that like, I don't know what's the word, like negativity around a certain subject starts to filter away because they see, oh well, other people like it, so maybe I should learn more. Like like even, and it's no one in particular, but like even my personal experience, like, you know, me being up north in Wakefield, like the looks and the stares and the this, that and the other, like whatever, and it didn't, like, it got to a point where it just didn't faze me anymore because I was literally like, yeah, I wear women's clothes. Clothes are clothes. Do you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
I've got long hair. It's probably better than most people, so whatever. And I keep it healthy. But what was funny was that, you know, as soon as I booked a West End show, being authentically me, you know, going out there with a northern accent like Joe, playing a character that is like
Celebrates
that, like who we are as people, etc., all those things. Suddenly, like, I'm a bloody, what's the word?
Yeah, Beyonce.
I'm
Beyonce
I'm
Wakefield.
Beyonce.
You're Beyonce Wakefield, darling.
I go home and everyone's like, God, she's a West End Wendy.
That's so interesting, like
But,
back
like,
there.
so many people do, like, obviously supported me. I'm not saying that, like, the whole of Wakefield was like, die.
Yeah.
But, like, so many people did support me, but there was people that didn't.
People see that before they see you and your talent, and it goes for everything. It's like they see your queerness, whether you're a person of color, whether you're, you know what I mean. Like people, like, are just the way society and people can diminish a person just by how they look and how they identify. So completely, when you see people doing that, it goes, oh right, yeah, well, obviously,
Actually, yeah.
like,
Do you know what I mean? We're all
real
just
human
people.
beings. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I feel like Juliet, and like obviously covering May, has been one of the most amazing but like also scary moments of my life. I learned a lot from that character as I resonated with a lot of it. And I feel like with Juliet and where I was, it gave me space to explore myself. For me, it started becoming my life. The bathroom scene is something that I feel like a lot of queer people go through. And is also a lot of the time my experience.
Oh my god.
Like, I honestly, like, it's so hard to do that, and that I feel like has been quite triggering for well, I'm not going to speak on their experiences, but for me, that has been the hardest, because I feel like, oh my gosh, this is real life. This is when I go out. Like, we're doing this gorgeous podcast. We want to go probably for a drink later. Instantly, we're thinking, right, so where's the space?
Safe.
Where's the space that won't give us that, just a safer space?
Yes,
And so,
yeah.
to me, how I played May, I feel like I grew a lot. I feel like the performer I was interesting, because I feel like I was growing and I was on this up and down journey. People who know me closely know how much of that year had some great highs and some low lows. So I feel like my May changed.
Yes.
I got hair. Which I
Where?
started I started presenting, like, I just grew as a person, and I feel like May is such a fluid, such a fluid role.
She's a snake.
I'm a little
She's a little
snake.
snake. That I feel like anyone who plays it, regardless of how they identify or where they are in their queerness journey, it hits. If it doesn't hit, and I'm not a girl, it hits in, what do you want from me? If it doesn't, it hits at a wedding. It hits like, there's some moments where you just go, blimmin' heck, like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, like, even Domino being a best friend, like, going on, like, you resonate so much with a
Yes,
lot of it, and the
absolutely.
joy, and having a part that is joyful, and, like I said before, like, not a caricature, and, like, just, it's human. And to see what that has done, and how many performers now it's like internationally, and it's gone out, like, it's in Australia, it's doing exactly what it's meant to do now. I'm so excited to see so many other queer people take on that role and see how they go, because
Everyone's
it's
doing
life
different,
changing.
won't they?
Yeah, it's life changing.
So
Like,
cool.
people who do it are like, yeah, it comes to you at a very interesting time, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you're enjoying it, don't forget to subscribe or follow on your favourite podcast service. If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter @QueerMusicals, or you can follow me at Dr. James Lovelock.
I feel like, for me, just in terms of like going into it, I felt, oh my gosh. I think, look back at it now and I think, oh my god, so bloody amazing. But just like in terms of, obviously I spoke about it last time, but
Yes,
like I was
that's
kind
right,
of going through it in terms of like where I was at, with my identity and who I was as a person. I was really going through it. So just before legally, obviously, I had like a couple of months off, and I could like work on myself. I had therapy and stuff. I was able to talk a lot of stuff out. So I actually don't feel like I look back and I think, oh God, you know what? Actually, good on me, in terms of, I don't think I would have been able to do and give the performance, or bring as much as me as I could to it, if I hadn't of, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Because I felt
absolutely.
like everything had settled a lot. So then for me, I was almost past it, so I could look back on it in a way.
Yes, yeah.
So that was my experience on it. So then that was just a really lovely thing. And obviously in rehearsals we spoke about so much about how this character was so real. And you know, usually the queer characters are always like, oh my god, like, and you know, it's like, oh grr, yes mama, yes god. And obviously that is, we need that, because also that is also a huge part of queer culture, black queer
Absolutely, yeah.
culture. But to me, I just always wanted to like, it was just always about just stripping it back and just not having any of that. So, and just to be able to bring someone again like Aaron, like, who was northern, and just like, I don't know, it was just a completely different angle, and that's what I took from it, and it was very euphoric, very euphoric.
That's good to hear. And it's nice as well that your May was very different to the other two actors that had played it
Yeah.
as well, to Aaron and Alex. There was
Yeah.
a big difference between how all three of you approached it also.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And it's
And that's actually something that we spoke about in rehearsals. It was always, let's find it for you.
Yes.
And you know, it was a quick 2 weeks of rehearsals, and a quick hop skip onto the stage. But like it was what is made to you. Let's find it for you. We made subtle changes, like sorry girls.
Yeah, you remember
They
them?
were already 6 months in, and they were like, right, so now new choreography for our kids to go.
Aaron and Jazz to rehearsals, please.
We were like,
6 months in.
So we just turned that to pointing.
Piss off,
you know,
Joe.
that's kind of my gig.
Oh gosh, I remember
They were
that.
like, we could tell Josie, yeah. What was
Yeah,
it?
me and Jazz were like, me and Jazz were like, we've done this blocking for 6 months.
Yeah, just keep it.
Yeah, they were giving it a good cutesy turtle
Oh,
shady.
it was it was the line changes. It was all this. It was like blimmin' heck.
Oh,
Once you think you're comfortable,
But anyway,
takes that
I like to keep my girls on the toes. I like to keep my girls on the toes. No. So I thought, how can I ruin the live? No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
Well,
it
stressful.
I'm
But no,
interested in
we-
the line changes. What was there dialogue that changed between?
There was just
Alex
certain
and
dialogue, like
yourself?
for instance, when they obviously took it to Canada and then it transferred to Broadway, there was the foreign guys line that they took out, because I think on Broadway I don't think that resonated, and I
Yes.
think quite a lot of people took a bit of offence to that. Which again, obviously understandable, I think as well, just a cultural difference actually.
yeah.
So I think that's why they changed that. And then there was a few, what do you want from me? We changed the lines back and forth.
Okay.
Because I think they did that on Broadway. However, I always said when I watched it, and I wasn't able to say, I was like, don't really stick with me. I said, I feel like May was always, you know, Francois would say all this stuff and May would just stand there and not really sing for a long time, which to me, I was like, my May, me would walk off. My May would walk off right now and not give them the time of day. So for me,
my
I'm
May
like,
would fly.
my May would do fisticuffs. Like, do you know what I
My
mean?
May would finish this song and sing No Tears Left to Cry.
Yes. Oh my god, we spoke about that. May needs No Tears Left to Cry. Ariana Grande after What Do You Want From Me? Imagine. Ooh, Britney.
Warm.
I'm warm, yeah. But no, yeah, and obviously we changed that, and then it was more for me, just in terms of like having a really big back and forth between me and Francois, and that to me that highlighted more that these characters, and by the end they finished the song so close together. They want each other. They're just not listening to one another. I think they always just said May was always about exploring and someone finding themselves. And I think in a broader perspective, as someone who isn't going through like gender identity and discovering their queerness, just finding anything out about yourself in general, that is what you can relate to as May. So I think that was,
Absolutely. Aaron, tell us a bit about how.
Oh my
'cause
God.
Is it interesting as a
The Aaron.
second cover, isn't it? Because you don't always get the chance to go on.
Yeah.
So it's great that you got quite a few shows in the end. Didn't
Yeah,
you?
I did. And I think that was what was like so amazing for me, that I got to do May quite a few times, because I really didn't expect it. And for me, I walked in very much like, as I've been for quite a long time in my life, my pronouns have been he, him, and I've just loved the feminine lifestyle.
Yes.
Like, I've loved the clothes. Like, there's just so, I do think, I mean, I'm putting air quotes around men's, but stereotypical men's fashion is very much evolving now, and like is a lot more diverse than it used to be. But like working in retail for however long I did, like nearly 6 years, again air quotes, men's fashion was just so boring. Like there was nothing to it, and I was really like happy who I was, but just really loved that side of things. So I went into doing May very much like that, but I was similar to Joe about the northern thing. I was very surprised that they let me, from when I joined, like do my northern accent, because I did, like when I got the job and I was learning lines, I thought, right, I'm gonna have to practice my RP. It's like, here we go. You know, I need to appeal to the London crowds. But like when I got told that I could use my own accent, and like they wanted to hear it, because it was also, you know, celebrating that in the show as well. Like it's not just about, you know, race and sexuality and gender, like it's about who a person is, like wholeheartedly. So like I was glad that I got to bring like my northernness to it, and so many fans actually resonated with that. Like I'm sure you got it as well. Like so many fans used to message me being like, oh my god, it is so refreshing to hear a northern accent on a West End stage. Like you don't tend to hear it really. And I actually feel like a lot of musical theatre and shows that are up and coming and quite new are so northern nowadays
Completely.
as well.
They always ask for your regional accent, don't
Yeah,
they?
like
Yeah.
standing at the Sky's Edge, set up. Is it in
Oh
Sheffield?
my gosh, I was going to
Sheffield,
bring that
yeah.
up.
Sheffield, like how amazing. Anyway, so my mate was very like where I was as a person, like at the start, and very much just like I have throughout Juliet sort of like resonated more with me, just in the fact that I still do resonate more with he him pronouns, but
Yes.
being more like gender fluid,
Yeah.
gender queer, more of that, like, you know, most of the time I do pass and people do assume that I am female, so I
Yeah.
do most of the time still answer to she her pronouns. And when I first started wearing like women's clothing, like I didn't like it. I was like, now I am a boy, I'm just wearing clothes that you don't
Yes.
seem to like put together, and like, no, like I'm doing my own thing. But now I still resonate with that, but I am more like, if someone was to refer to me as she, like I wouldn't be offended, and I quite resonate with that in a lifestyle as well. That's what I grew with me, finding those little bit more of like nuances of being like, you know, a bit more gender fluidy. But I think the way that I did it was just really, I just took it how it is, because like these two, like a lot of different parts of it, like the bathroom thing, like what do you want from me was one of my favourite scenes in the show, and especially as mate, it was my favourite scene in the show because it was very much, as someone who is very effeminate and looks very feminine and, you know, sometimes passes, the romantic attention that I get a lot of the times is from, you know, people who are curious about their sexuality or haven't had those experiences with queer people, or are more, you know, they identify as straight but are trying it, or are, you know, potentially in the closet, etc., etc. Those sort of experiences are very much the ones that I've had romantically. And for the May Frankie storyline, you know, that was very much a storyline that was someone who was, you know, scared to be their authentic self, and was
Even
in
just
love,
that,
yeah,
it's
and was
great.
in love with you know, this person, May, and didn't know how to approach it, and went back on it because they were scared. And that is what a lot of experiences that I've had. And sometimes, like, being the secret that's kept in the closet by, you know, someone who identifies as male, it does grate on you, and it gets a lot at times. And I think that's, what do you want from me? That was when I felt most like, and it brought the anger out that I needed to get out in that scene. But I was like, I was angry because like, I was like, this is what I get, and I'm sick of it. And I have taken a lot of, you know, time for myself now, and I'm like,
But also, it's hard not to go look in on yourself when that is the experience you're having.
Yeah,
Then you
'cause
go, is it me?
yeah, you always think
It's
that you're the
not.
problem, and it's like, no, it's, and it's no shade to them, because people figure out
Francois.
people figure out how, you know, their experiences on their own time, and that's totally fine. And I'm never gonna pressure or push anyone. But obviously, we are people too on the other side of it, and we can't just, number one, wait around. We can't just, number two, you know, be like, you know, the secret on the side. We are people, and we deserve romantic connections that are able to be out there for the world. And I think that's why what do you want from me really resonated. But my journey with me, by the end, I was like, I just want to have fun. Like, I really want to have fun. And similarly to Jazz as well, like having my family in, and like some of my dad's side of the family, because my dad's the Indian side of the family, like that was like life changing for me, because I don't really go to like the Indian weddings anymore on like my dad's side of the family anymore, because I get a bit freaked out about what people will say, because they're very honest. Do you know what I mean? Like you'd put on £2 and they'd be like, God, you've gotten fat. Do you know what I mean? Like, no shade, you know, but that's just the sort of culture on my dad's side. And I was very scared for like some of my dad's side of the family to come and sit in the audience and watch it was like my third May show, I think. And I was like, oh my God. And just the fact that they loved it, And I remember actually the first time they watched my ensemble, they was like, we need to come and see you do May. Like, I've not even told them really, like, outwardly that I was doing May, like, that I was covering.
Yeah.
And they had obviously spoken to my mum and dad about it. And they was like, we need to see you do that storyline because that is amazing. And I was just like, that's a full circle moment
Wow.
because it's like, for something that was so, you know, a lot of my family on the Indian side do have arranged marriages still. And, you know, for conversations leading up to like 16 years of age, with some of my aunties being like, so when are we going to find you a girl to marry? Like, you know, some of those conversations still happening when you like, when you think you've like found a lot of yourself, still ways to go. You're like, whew, they're about to come and see me play a character that is really like sort of quite real to me. And
it's not that.
yeah,
aligned
like
with
I didn't
that?
even used to wear my long hair around. Like
Oh
when
my
I'd go around,
gosh.
I'd tie my hair up. And I am a very free and open person. Like I will walk down any street, anywhere. But when it comes to family, that's where sometimes obviously
Isn't it mad though that like that is? I felt like that is almost like a lot of our experience with it. Like in terms of, you know, when our families come, it was a very big moment of like, ooh, like, you know, I feel like that was. It's mad, isn't
that
it?
was the most. The first time, the last time when I had friends and family in, and the one in like the middle where I had just really like family, like a few members of the family. That was when I was like, oh, let's see what happens. But by the end, I was just like, I just want to have fun because I feel so free with this role. I feel happy to do
And they
this
see
role.
that.
Yeah, and I was happy to do it.
It's great that you've all had this experience in Anne Juliet. And Joe, we spoke last time a little bit about Legally Blonde and Rent and this idea of sort of queer companies and queer spaces and that sort of thing. So I'm interested in thinking about theatre more in general now and what theatre can do to be more welcoming for people across the queer community. So yeah, anyone got any thoughts on that?
I feel like I'm so excited for new writing. I'm so excited to hopefully be around a project or upcoming projects where people have like so many voices and allow opportunity for everyone. And I feel like that is definitely one option that I feel like will excel and be better. I feel like a lot of productions at the moment are changing and it's great. However, I feel like as a queer performer and artist, like I don't really want to go into a show and try and fit a mold and be like, oh yeah, well they might consider me. I feel like moving forward, new writing could be really something special, especially with Juliet closing, and obviously we had the pandemic. I bet there's a catalogue of writers and creatives that just want to like put their work out or try new things, and I think that excites me about the industry and where we're at. We have a long way to go. In terms of representation, I feel, but it's about creating a space, a safe space, and about allowing opportunity for everyone. We're a generation of performers who are very outspoken and will really call it out now, especially after the pandemic. There's been a lot of topics over that time where everyone was sacked, where like there's been movements happening, especially even BLM. Like there are so many things that now like people need to like turn up.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? People
100%.
need to like realize what's happening because you know now.
Yeah.
I was saying the same thing. I've realised a lot as well. Like for me, again, I've been lucky with the stuff I've done, but I do just want to be in these queer spaces. I feel like for what they've done for me, and also just in terms of being held as a performer and as a person, you like I've had moments where I've not felt held, and then when you're being so vulnerable and putting your work out there, and you're in a space where you have all lights on you, and then you've got other things where people aren't saying stuff, but it's in terms of showing up for like that person, or you hear something and you don't say anything, or someone misgenders you and someone doesn't say anything, or it's just not cute. And so for me, I don't want to. I would rather not be in those spaces. Again, it's like if when casting will open their doors up to everyone, but yet you look at the creative team and that doesn't reflect it. Like I think I said that last time in terms of like your cast should reflect also backstage, because it's important that you can have someone to go to.
No, but adding to that, I actually do think if you can't reflect it, maybe
done.
go elsewhere. Maybe look elsewhere. Maybe do something else that you can do.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any harm in going, we can't find it. Okay, if we can't find it,
Let's go look for it.
let's go look for it. And if we still can't, don't do it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just think because ultimately you're not going to get the best outcome.
So I've been doing like a few things that is like new writing, and it's bringing your queer experience and bringing.
You're working on something for Finn, aren't you? For being.
Yes, for instance, that's something that is really exciting. It's like a new this person speaking about their queer experience, actually speaking about how they have like these fetishes and kinks.
Yes.
And the queer community is so like sexually liberated because we have to be. It's sometimes used as such like a bad thing and weaponized against us, when actually it isn't that. And this is a character who speaks about that openly, and the show is about that. It was actually set in the 90s about the movement where like 100 or was it 400 like gay and bisexual men got imprisoned for like sodomistic sex essentially, and it was all consensual, it was all fine, but and I think 40 people were actually imprisoned. And then that led to like the first S&M march. It led, like, it was so much like it was a really, really pinnacle time in like the queer. But anyway, in terms of that, like, there's stuff there, and it is exciting because you're bringing you to a character, and to me, that is what is exciting. So if it means actually not going in for things or not working for a while, because then when these things come along, it's like stardust, and you get to put your own spin on it. And to me, that is so exciting, and that fulfills me. So I feel like that's maybe where I'm at. But
What about you?
What about me? I think I agree with everything these two have said about new writing, but I think for things that are already, here, I feel like I've noticed great things already. Like we say, we still have a long way to go, but like even, from the way that I present and being more gender fluid, that like I get called into female calls sometimes, which is great. But then me and my agent speak about this, and we sort of say like, well, which show, like what ensemble would you want to be in? And it's like the fact that we still have this very gendered ensemble.
Yes, absolutely.
Like don't get me wrong, Juliet was great, and it was one of the most diverse casts that was in town, like absolutely amazing, and that's something I want to touch on as well in a second. But like, it was still a Juliet and Romeo crew. It's still, air quotes around it, which I know that they tried to, they did something, but it was like by the end of it, I was going on, Jazz was going on, even Nathan, and obviously Rachel, Sophie and Suki, we were going on for the opposite crews. And it was like, if us swings are expected and sort of, paid to know these other types of choreographies that are sort of gendered in the tiniest way, like why can't just everyone do everything? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and my agent even raised a really great point to me when we were talking about it. He was like, when I was talking to him about, being so open to different ensembles, and like, for example, in Frozen, like, I am 5'6". I couldn't lift, and it's nothing about, but I didn't get any pas de deux training in college. Like, we didn't do any of it really. So I'm
your
like,
hair would get tangled.
I'd be like, don't touch me. I was like, I could not be in the Frozen, air quotes, male ensemble, because I would not be able to lift any of those girls. I would give it a good bash if they put me in it. Like, pay me the money and I'll try. But like, that was a conversation where I was like, I'd much prefer to be in the female ensemble. But then, my agent was like, it's very much that, people out there are trying to do something by saying, like, on the spotlight breakdowns, looking for female ensemble, and then brackets, that can be trans, non-binary, but then just take out the female ensemble part of it and just call people in for a call and just see what they can do. Like, teach
because essentially as gender fluid, someone who is like gender fluid, you're essentially saying what is the binary, you're essentially what is masculine and what is feminine.
So it's like I went in for a round that was for a male ensemble, and the choreography was very masculine. And don't get me wrong, I loved it.
Yeah.
But then when I heard about someone that had been in for the female ensemble and that their routine was completely different, it sounded sexy as fuck. Like, it sounded
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do it. And that's not me trying to say only queer people should be in for both calls, or only queer people should, like, just teach everyone a routine or two that you can see what everyone can do, and then make the decision from there. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like we should just be an ensemble of people. Like, that's why we're called the ensemble. Like, we're an ensemble of people. We don't need to be split even further. Like, we're already in a team of people. So that, I feel like, for me, on things that are already here, would be where my stance is. Like, just try and make us an ensemble of people. Like, we're all musical theatre professionals. Like, we can all come together and, you know, do the job that needs to be done. Just, you know, be a bit more well-rounded. I think the other thing is, I think for me, being in Juliet and being in my first job, and like I talked about earlier about like my family coming to watch and like my Indian side of the family, I used to push away from like my Indian culture because I felt like I wouldn't be deemed, is worthy the right word? I'm not sure. But like with what the Indian culture is, and not to say that anyone in my family necessarily like actually directly gave me grief. I think it was just, you know, trauma and fear in my head of like, would I fit into the Indian culture? And right now, after like some of my Indian family have come to see me and they've loved it, like, it's made me feel so much more proud of like who I am and like my Indian culture. And like, I go back and I watch the films that I used to watch with like my dad growing up, like the Bollywood films that are like 3 hours long, and I just love it. And I want to go out and learn more about my culture. I want to learn Punjabi. Like, I want to do so much more. But I think for me, what I see in musical theatre at the minute is not enough Asian representation. And it really bugs me with a show like, for example, Aladdin. I'm sorry, but if we're going to talk about like race, it's not just black and white. It's really not. And like in shows that are out there that really push for history to be shown in a great way with, you know, different representation. I know that Aladdin is a fictional story, but it's set in the Middle East. Find some Middle Eastern actors to do the role. Like, I don't understand why. I just don't get it personally as someone from a Middle Eastern background, from my family being from India. But even with the controversy about Aladdin pantomimes, like, you've got white people playing Aladdin.
I feel like that is where a lot of it lies.
Like,
you know what I mean? In terms of Aladdin has been taken out into pantos, into places that do not have that representation.
So then, because that wasn't an issue until recently, and like brought up as an issue till recently, I feel like Aladdin has been getting by with like people who are olive skinned or like, do you know what I mean? And I just feel like
Be interesting to see who the creative team was like.
Because I'm just like, there's Middle Eastern people out there, like Jazz said earlier, when you can't find something, go a bit further. And if you can't find it, then don't put it on. Because if it's not accurate in the way that you want it to read, like, you can't just put a bunch of, you know, black and white people into saris and be like, there we go, we've got our cast. Like, no, like, find some Middle Eastern people, because you will find a lot out there. Bollywood, just like Hollywood, is one of the most successful entertainment industries in the world. And that's people who sing, act and dance. A lot of the biggest stars, they lip sync to singers, you know, in the films. But like, that is a massive entertainment industry that you could go and find so many people who could do this job. So for me, I think that's where in the last year, like, I found more of like the Asian authenticity in me as well. And I'm like, I really want to celebrate that. And I think that musical theatre should as well, because I don't think we see enough Asian people on stage, but we saw so many in Anne Juliet, and I think that was amazing. And Anne Juliet on Broadway, there's so many Asians over there as well, and I love that. But yeah.
No, that's
my
great.
2 pence.
I'm going to just for people who are listening, there's a musical called Interstate, which is a new musical. It's in America, written by Melissa Lee and Kit Yan. And I did, actually, one of the podcast episodes I did for series 1 was with the cast of that, and I was lucky enough to go and see it in Los Angeles. But that is well worth checking out, because there is loads of Asian representation in that, trans representation as well. And it's just a really fun score, and hopefully that's a show that will get bigger, along with some of the other things that are being written at the moment. But thank you all so much. It's been so lovely to chat with you all. And
thank you so much for having us.
No, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, like Mike TV is literally going through puberty on stage in front of your eyes. You can't get that anywhere else.
You want it authentically.
You got it.
Trans people.
The next episode will come out on Saturday the 29th of July. See you there.